Earth hides deserts and Antarctica. It grows glowing waves. It hides lakes under miles of ice. It even drops giant dust vitamins onto a rainforest from another continent. And that's still nowhere near the weirdest part. Because the planet you call normal is basically showing off. The ground slides rocks when nobody is watching. The ocean has waterfalls bigger than any on land. Some worms spend their whole lives on glacier ice. Forests can help summon their own rain. By the end, your idea of nature is going to feel way too small. So let's count down the facts that make Earth feel slightly made up. At number 20, Antarctica has valleys so dry and bare they look more like Mars than Earth. These McMurdo Dry valleys are some of the few Antarctic places not buried under thousands of meters of ice. For a few summer weeks, glacial melt briefly forms streams that feed lakes sitting in one of Earth's coldest deserts. Those lakes can stay liquid beneath an ice lid, which is already a pretty dramatic way to start this list. That means Antarctica manages to be an ice continent and a desert continent at the exact same time. Now jump to Chile, where parts of the Atacama Desert have not seen rain for centuries. NASA describes some areas as getting rain only a few times in a century, while others have no recorded rainfall. The desert is so dry, scientists use it to study the limits of life and compare Earth with Mars. And somehow, this planet still had room left for something even stranger. Every year, giant dust plumes leave the Sahara and cross the Atlantic like a sky highway. That dust carries phosphorus from an ancient lake bed in Chad, which the Amazon badly needs. NASA estimated about 27.7 million tons of Saharan dust reached the Amazon basin in a typical year. So yes, one continent literally feeds another from the air and Earth is just getting warmed up. It is basically long-distance fertilizer delivery on a planetary scale, with no shipping company required. The Amazon is not just a rainforest because it gets rain. It also helps make the rain by pumping water vapor from leaves into the atmosphere. NASA researchers found that this evapotranspiration helps kick off the southern Amazon's rainy season. A forest helping schedule its own weather feels like Earth being smug. The forest is not just reacting to climate, it is actively helping write the forecast. Oregon is home to a fungus so huge it makes trees look like decoration. The humongous fungus is an Armillaria genet in Malheur National Forest, spread underground across a massive area. It's considered the largest known fungus genet in the world, mostly hidden where you can't see it, which means one of Earth's biggest organisms looks, from the surface, like absolutely nothing special, and the next one actually moves. Most of it lives underground, so the forest can hide a giant without looking remotely dramatic. In Death Valley, rocks can slide across a dry lake bed and leave trails behind them. Some of those stones weigh as much as 700 pounds, according to the National Park Service. The mystery turned out to involve a rare mix of water, thin ice, and wind. So the desert can quietly move boulders when conditions are weird enough. Some glacier ice glows blue for a reason that sounds almost too elegant. USGS says ice absorbs the red part of white light while transmitting and scattering blue wavelengths. The longer light travels through dense ice, the more intensely blue it can appear. It looks edited, but it's just physics being ridiculously pretty. The color grows stronger when the ice is dense and clear, making frozen water look almost electric. Yes, ice worms are real, and no, Alaska did not make them up as a prank. USGS says these tiny annelid worms live on glacier ice in Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. They come to the glacier surface in the cool parts of the day to feed on snow algae. But wait, the next one looks even less real than glacier worms. Blood Falls in Antarctica looks like a glacier started bleeding straight through the ice. The red flow comes from iron-rich briny water emerging from below Taylor Glacier. NASA says that hidden brine also supports unusual microbes in cold, dark, oxygen-poor conditions. So beneath the frozen glacier, life found a way using chemistry instead of sunlight. And Blood Falls is only one clue that Antarctica is hiding a secret plumbing system. NASA reported that scientists had already identified more than 140 subglacial lakes beneath Antarctic ice. Some are linked by fast-moving water systems that can fill, drain, and even change the ice above. A continent that looks frozen solid is secretly moving water underneath like a giant hidden machine. From above, Antarctica looks still. Underneath, whole water networks are shifting and reshaping the ice. Out in the ocean, blue holes punch straight down into the seafloor like trapdoors. NOAA describes them as underwater sinkholes with unusual chemistry and surprisingly rich marine life. They can act like ecological oases in places that would otherwise look empty and flat. And this is where the ocean starts getting openly unreasonable. Because yes, the ocean also contains underwater lakes and rivers. They form when extra salty water becomes denser than the seawater around it and settles into depressions. NOAA says these submerged lakes can have shorelines, surfaces, and even waves. That is a lake inside an ocean, which feels like Earth stacking nouns for fun. And if that wasn't enough, the world's largest waterfall is also underwater. NOAA says the Denmark Strait Cataract begins about 2,000 feet below the surface and drops nearly 2 miles. It forms because cold, dense water sinks beneath warmer water and pours over a huge seafloor ridge. Earth hit its biggest waterfall where almost nobody would ever casually see it. On land, that drop would be world famous. Underwater, scientists needed instruments just to prove it existed. The ocean is also full of animals that can make their own light. NOAA says bioluminescence is very common in the ocean, especially in the water column. In fact, around 80% of animals living between 200 and 1,000 meters there are bioluminescent. So the deep sea is not just dark, it's secretly covered in living sparkles, and it still gets stranger. Then you reach hydrothermal vents, where the rules start feeling optional. When scientists first found them, they also found thriving ecosystems in total darkness at 2,500 meters deep. NOAA explains that microbes there use chemical energy from vent fluids instead of sunlight. Whole food webs built on chemistry sound like science fiction, but they're sitting on our seafloor. Some vent fluids can top 400 degrees Celsius, yet immense deep sea pressure keeps the water from boiling. And above those depths, food can fall through the ocean like a slow underwater winter. NOAA calls it marine snow, a steady drift of dead organisms, waste, and tiny particles. Some flakes take weeks to reach the seafloor, feeding animals in the dark along the way. So even the deep ocean gets weather, just made of leftovers. Sometimes Earth goes even bigger and drops an entire whale into the abyss. When a whale sinks, NOAA says the carcass becomes a sudden feast for deep-sea life. Then the bones can support rich communities for years to decades as microbes and animals move in. If you thought forests recycle everything, the deep sea would like a word. Now zoom out from creatures to the planet itself, because Earth's compass is not as loyal as it seems. USGS says Earth's magnetic field has reversed polarity many times in the geologic record. The last full reversal happened about 780,000 years ago, and reversals unfold over hundreds to thousands of years. So even north has not always been north, which is frankly rude. And the thing causing all of that is even wilder. Earth has a liquid outer core of metal, and USGS says its motion helps create the magnetic field. As Earth rotates, that spinning outer core acts like the engine behind the shield wrapped around the planet. You are standing on a rocky surface protected by moving metal deep below your feet, and the sky still has one last trick. And number one is a reminder that the sky itself can go feral in a second. NOAA says lightning can heat the surrounding air to as much as 60,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That blast happens in millionths of a second, which helps create the shockwave you hear as thunder. So the same planet with glowing plankton and blood-red ice also fires air hotter than most kitchen nightmares. If one of these facts broke your brain a little, you're exactly why this channel exists. Drop the weirdest one into the comments, because I still can't pick between underwater rivers and ice worms. And if you want more true facts that make Earth seem completely unhinged, there's a whole playlist waiting. Stick with Zorp facts, because the next video somehow gets even stranger. Until then, look around a little differently. Your planet is way weirder than it lets on.